When you think of Swiss trains, some words that almost instantly come to mind are efficient and punctual. Well, today we'll be taking the one Swiss train that's neither of these things. This is the EuroCity Express that runs between Zurich, Switzerland's largest city, and Germany's third largest city, Munich, which has the reputation of almost never reaching its destination on time, or not at all in some cases. But why? Join me in this video to find out as the journey continues. You join me early in the morning at Zurich Hauptbahnhof, which, as the name suggests, is the main rail transport hub for the city and beyond, plugged right in the heart of the city centre. The station here dates back as far as 1847 and the current building 1871, which at the time of filming was nearing completion of a 5-year long refurbishment which, if you've watched my previous videos from here, will know that's since been completed. Now, no trip to Zurich's main station is complete without showing off the array of fairs and events that happen here. As this video was recorded around Christmas time, there was the annual Christmas market on prominent display here, though given it's around 6 in the morning, this would of course not be operational. But as an example of how busy it gets, here's some footage I took the night before. The atmosphere is fantastic. Instead, we can appreciate the design of the station as well as its, should we say, interesting sculptures as we wait for departure. It may also be worth stopping at the ticket machines or ticket offices if you need to purchase tickets or obtain prepaid ones, as well as visit the station's many shops and eateries, though there is of course a fantastic dining car on this train which we'll have time to check out later. Zurich Hauptbahnhof is one of the busiest railway stations in the world, with an impressive 150 million passengers annually and serving up to 2,915 trains per day, though navigating it isn't as confusing as you'd think. Most trains serving Zurich Hauptbahnhof make use of the 9 upper-level platforms at the end of the Haupthalle, or main hall, not only domestically in Switzerland, but also internationally to countries such as Germany, France and Italy. Our train, however, the EC97 to München Hauptbahnhof, will be departing from the station's lower level platforms, specifically platform 33. These platforms are well signposted, and reaching them involves navigating the underground Shopville Mall, which has a much more extensive shop selection than the main hall we saw just now, and you can even make use of the church here, or Bahnhofkirche, available to all faiths, though this was closed at this time of morning. Let's instead head downstairs to the platform. There are plenty of escalators, but there are also lifts available for those with heavy luggage or reduced mobility. The lower level platforms at Zurich Hauptbahnhof became operational in 2014, aiming to address the capacity constraints and provide crucial through north to south services across Switzerland and beyond. Even though our train starts its journey at Zurich Hauptbahnhof, it makes use of the lower level platforms, and speaking of which, it's arriving in now from the depot. The Zurich to Munich EuroCity Express runs 8 return services a day as of the 2025 timetable change, and exclusively uses a dedicated pool of 250 km/h capable SBB ETR 610 or RABe 503 Astoro trains. The SBB fleet consists of 19 units, 7 built in the mid to late 2000s and a further 12 built between 2012 and 2017, of which our train is part of the latter. These trains are part of the extensive new Pendolino family built by Alstom and are primarily used for services between Switzerland, Germany and Italy, though the introduction of the newer Giruno trains on many of these routes has allowed them to be focused on routes such as Zurich to Munich, which features numerous curves and bends. The fleet used on the Zurich to Munich service is authorised for use in Austria in addition to the previously mentioned countries, though not all of SBB's Astoro fleet are authorised for use there, strangely enough. Trenitalia also operates a fleet of 7 ETR 610 units, which are also used on Germany, Switzerland and Italy services, but lack the Austrian authorization required to run this particular route. This EuroCity is run jointly between Germany's Deutsche Bahn, Austria's ÖBB and the Swiss Federal Railways, seen here stylized in German, French and Italian respectively. Deutsche Bahn provides the onboard crew for most of the journey, whilst SBB is responsible for the provision and maintenance of the Astoro fleet used on the route. The entire 3.5-hour journey takes place in the European Schengen zone, though some passport and ID formalities may be present between the Austrian and German legs. Anyway, Our train will be leaving pretty soon, so let's hurry on board. One key difference between the SBB and Trenitalia fleet is the former having more space for luggage, as seen here in the vestibule. We'll be travelling in first class today, but first a quick look at second class, which is in a 2x2 configuration and features a nice mix of airline and table seats. And here's the main first class area, laid out in a 2x1 configuration and consisting of 2 full carriages in addition to the small section in the dining car. This train doesn't require a compulsory reservation, and I was travelling on an Interrail pass, but I recommend booking a seat reservation and not chancing it like I did. I based myself at this table seat, which as shown on the displays is free for the duration of the journey, and if you're in doubt, it's also in Italian and German as well as English. For today's route, we'll be heading east as we work our way out of Switzerland with intermediate stops up to St. Margrethen, where we then cross the border into Austria briefly before making our way into Germany. We then work our way through the state of Bavaria all the way to its capital, Munich, with an expected arrival of 11 AM. Our SBB Pendolino should take 3.5 hours to cover the 327km distance to Munich this morning, and the key word here is should. So far so good. We leave Zurich Hauptbahnhof bang on time at 7:33 Central European Time. To leave Zurich, we navigate a series of tunnels before continuing through the city's urban area as daybreak approaches. Around 9 minutes later, we reach our first stop of Zurich Airport. This train is often advertised as a Swiss Air rail connection from here, a collaboration with Switzerland's national carrier and SBB to allow seamless connections from flights to destinations within Switzerland and up to the border stations by rail. I've put further information on this in the description below. After leaving Zurich Airport, dawn is here and we get a sneak peek at some of the fantastic scenery we'll be seeing on this trip. Well, better than what we would have seen leaving Zurich Hauptbahnhof. More importantly, we're still on time for now and soon arrive at Winterthur, Switzerland's 6th largest city by population with over 120,000 residents, the station being the 4th busiest in Switzerland despite initial appearances. Beyond Winterthur is where the benefits of the Astoro train sets can be experienced. Being Pendolinos, these trains have active tilting technology, meaning it tilts slightly when going around corners to provide enhanced comfort whilst at the same time traverse them faster, a feature very useful across Switzerland's mountainous terrain. Anyway, enough about the train's technical features. What about the interior? To be honest, the seats do look uncomfortable at face value, but I personally think they're the complete opposite. Brilliant ergonomics and adequate padding, as well as a plush headrest. Each seat also features a foldable armrest on the aisle side, and found at the base are 2 European power sockets, one of course for Swiss adapters and another for the rest of Europe given this train's international coverage. The seat also features a manual recline operated by this lever here. Just pull it and slide your body forwards and backwards to adjust. I'm sat at a table seat which for the entirety of the journey had the opposite seat free, so legroom and movement weren't too much of an issue, especially with the foldable table sections. Legroom on the solo seats however is okay, if anything a bit cramped for first class, and the footrest at the base, yeah, still not a huge fan of these in general. This also features a fixed plastic seat back pocket, a fold down tray table and personal bins, though this was larger here than those found at the table seats as you can see. One thing I love about these trains is the reading lights are located right next to the window and are operable with a simple head touch. There are plenty of coat hooks next to the windows too, which feature draw-down blinds in case the sunlight gets too harsh, or for some reason you get bored of the stunning Swiss scenery. All in all, a nice modern interior for a journey of this distance and importance. It almost makes up for the poor reliability of this service. Speaking of poor reliability, the journey itself was running smoothly until we arrived at St. Gallen, the capital of the Swiss canton of the same name. Whilst we arrived on time, we ended up remaining at a standstill for the next 20 minutes, owing to a member of train crew being absent. There wasn't much else to do except admire the stunning train shed and watch an infamous twin-deck set leave for Geneva, and quietly panic as what was already a tight connection in Munich just became even tighter.
Eventually.
By the time we left St. Gallen, the train was 13 minutes late, which is a pretty big deal for Switzerland. The snowy landscape starts to make an appearance as we continue to head towards the Swiss-Austrian border, the snow-covered Alps making a nice scenic backdrop. Our next stop of St. Margrethen is notable for two reasons. The first being that it's the last stop in Switzerland before we cross the border into Austria, and the other more important reason, at least from an enthusiast perspective, is Swiss train manufacturer Stadler's main plant is located here, and seen outside are the new Class 555 sets to be used by the Tyne and Wear Metro, ready for delivery to the UK. Don't worry, this video was purely taken for project use, I'm sure they won't mind. When the Astoros first started operating this route in December 2020, the dwell time at St. Margrethen would have been 30 minutes to perform a control system switch prior to crossing the Austrian border. Thanks to software updates on the dedicated Zurich to Munich fleet, however, this can now be done whilst the train is in motion, enabling the 3.5 hour advertised journey time, if it's ever not delayed somehow. Not long after leaving St. Margrethen, we cross the Rhine River, which also marks our entry into Austria. Numerous unscheduled stops and Allgäu Alp scenery later sees us arrive into Bregenz, the capital of Vorarlberg, Austria's westernmost state, and is situated between both Switzerland to the west and Germany to the northeast. Immediately after leaving Bregenz, we run alongside Lake Constance, or Bodensee, a 63-kilometre long lake which runs through Switzerland, Austria and Germany, with it being an important water source for those living in the southwestern part of the latter. Consequently, the lake is a good indicator that we're about to end our brief stint in Austria and cross the border into Germany.
Interregio Express 3 nach Friedrichshafen Stadt über Nonnenhorn, Langenargen, 10:03 Uhr, Bahnsteig 23, Interregio Express 70 Richtung München über Canton, Buchloe.
During this time, I decided to take a look at the train's additional features. Each Astoro set features ample bike storage. On SBB trains, bikes must be reserved online and only one is allowed per passenger. Reservations vary by route, though won't exceed 15 Swiss francs, in which case a day pass is automatically offered. At the end of the dining car is a smaller first class area, which features the wheelchair accessible area for those with reduced mobility, as well as the accompanying PRM accessible toilet. There are also plenty of standard toilets throughout the train, which we'll be checking out as part of the Lou review.
Your next connecting trains S1 direction Lindau Insel, departure to 9:30, platform 21.
On the whole, this was surprisingly spacious and clean, as to be expected from the first service of the day. Each toilet also features electrical shaver sockets and coat hooks that can be extended if needed, like so. We've now crossed the border into Germany and are now approaching our first stop in the country at Lindau Rüten. Prior to the December 2020 timetable change, the old loco hall EuroCity would instead serve the terminus station Lindau Insel to conduct a locomotive change from Swiss electric to German diesel, though following electrification works and conversion to EuroCity Express status, trains between Zurich and Munich instead serve this brand new through station to speed up journey times, having progressively been cut down from 4 hours and 45 minutes, if there are no delays. I've heard good things about Lindau and do intend to visit properly at some point. Have you been yet? The section of track we're on now to Buchloe was recently electrified, having gone into operation in December 2020, despite having been proposed as early as, would you believe, 1975. The line used by this EuroCity is also much shorter but also largely single-tracked, as has been the case for parts of our journey into Austria, which we'll see the impact of later. For now, it's getting to a decent time in the morning for breakfast, so I headed to the dining car in the third carriage. Each ETR 610 set, both SBB and Trenitalia, features an onboard dining car which, whilst not as spacious as those on an ICE, has a brilliant atmosphere and even features removable chairs, something I've not seen on a high-speed train before. Both the food offerings and prices are particularly Swiss, rich and expensive, especially as catering is not included in the first class fare. Once the attendant took my order, I watched as we stopped for a passing train to Zurich, further delaying our train thanks to the single track system. But was I bothered? Yeah, I have a connection, but I'm also enjoying hot chocolate and a nice breakfast next to some snowy landscape. Can you name a better way to travel? Buchloe, our last intermediate stop on the trip, approached around 30 minutes late. The town's name comes from the word Buche, the German word for beech tree, likely due to being located in Bavaria's Ostallgäu region, known for its natural beauty and forests. As I took one final look at the SBB magazine at my seat in an attempt to understand German, I was also tensely looking out the window as I was at this point questioning whether I'd actually make my connection in Munich. The landscape nevertheless was relaxing, and before long we made it to the Munich suburbs and onwards towards the main station itself. On the whole, I would say that SBB Astoro is a fantastic train, and the overall improvements being made to the Zurich to Munich route are good to see, but there's so much more to be done. This train's potential is severely limited by issues such as infrastructure constraints in both Germany and Austria, and crew issues like I had today in Switzerland. Consequently, it's hard to recommend Switzerland's least punctual train as a good alternative to flying in its current form. However, if you don't mind the delays and want to enjoy a great meal with some stunning scenery, why not give this route a go? As I mentioned earlier, I was travelling using my first class Interrail pass, and with all three countries this train travels through being reservation free, there were no additional costs to get my seat, though I do recommend this as this train can be particularly busy when travelling through all three countries. Second class a month in advance starts at €29.99 or 28 Swiss francs 64, with first class being €51.99 or 49 Swiss francs 65, which to be honest isn't too bad for a 3.5 hour trip and is often cheaper than flying between Munich and Zurich. In the end, we arrive into München Hbf 26 minutes late, so just about in time for my connecting train onto Austria. Now it's over to you. Have you taken Switzerland's most delayed train yet? Do you plan on taking it at some point in the future? Let me know in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and don't forget to like and share it if you did to aid the channel's growth, as well as subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more content such as this weekly. Now it's a very quick move onto my connecting Westbahn service towards Vienna, which if you've been here for a while you would have already seen and will know just how quick I rush to get it. For now though, thanks so much for coming with me on this trip, and I look forward to bringing you with me on my next one.